Hello, welcome to another episode of Backwoods Progression with me, Brown Kenku, where I go through my backyard and make sure that all is well and try to keep up on the path in the woods and, generally look for dead things. But beyond that, we're here today looking at last week to get a gauge on what has changed in the past week. So we had some storming, had some little rough bits. It was okay. I felt really unmotivated this past week. There's been a lot of shows that I was made aware of that have taken up much of my time. If you ever want to be productive, there is a very easy way to do it. Unless you're one of those people who can just do nothing. If so, not so much for you. But if you take away TV, streaming services, the computer, all of that, where you're just passively being entertained, you will find things to do. It's amazing. I get so much done during my ad breaks. I get to stretch. I get to do like light cleaning, like fold some laundry, put away some laundry, sweep the floor. But oftentimes we are put into situations like this walk, where there's something we do every day, and they're little things that annoy us, and we can see them, and they just, like, bring us down. It's annoying, to say the least. There's things like that tree branch that I just walk through, and, like, man, I wish I could take care of those things. Spoiler alert, I do this week on my walk. So, it's important to see things that are not the way you want them. Understand that aspect. Go about how you could change that, how you could fix it. But, oh, I don't have time, it's just the things that are on the way, you have a little bit of time for. Especially if you're not doing anything else. If you are not engrossed in streaming culture or watching the latest, I don't know. There's so many shows I'm watching. I'm catching up on Solar Opposites from last year. There's also so many things. It's so good. Twisted Metal is okay. I was a big fan of that series. So, like, there's a little soft spot in my heart for it. But that all aside, there are times, you get sucked in. It's fine. It happens. No need to be hard on yourself for enjoying things. That's how you have depression. It's unfortunate that the human body is so prone to depression, especially in the capitalist hellscape we live in. But trying to move on from that, we can do little things for ourselves. I've spent a lot of time being depressed about big things that I have no control over. And my therapy reminds me to use my radical acceptance and focus on the things I can control. So even if this isn't doing anything for anybody else, it's doing something for me. So I hope y'all can take that kind of advice, and sometimes narrowing your scope. You can still be mad about the bigger ongoings of the oligarchy, but at the same time, you have to take care of yourself. You have to eat. I hate that I live in a world where one of my friends was starving, like hadn't eaten in a couple days, and they just needed grocery money. And they work 3 jobs. This world is fucking nuts. But so that was a problem that I could take care of, so I did. I gave them some grocery money. It happens. I'm not looking to be like a hero or anything. I hardly know this person. We hung out like maybe a handful of times, but still, no one should have to go through that. Sucks. I am not rich. I am not even middle class. I am poor. And they expect that. The poor are intended to help the poor, which honestly should lead to revolution, but that's what the middle class is for. Don't worry about it. Okay. Getting tangented because I'm upset about the world we live in. But little things. Give yourself the ability to use the stuff you have and make use of the space you have. I finally am remembering to put the mint that I've been harvesting into my coffee. I'm still perfecting the best way to do it. I have a tea ball that I tried a little while ago. I put the leaves directly into the coffee port and then had coffee as well in it, and that seems to have worked quite well. Can recommend. There was a stream prior, I picked a leaf out of my mouth because I had no idea what it was. I thought it might have been a bug, but you know. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. But so I think last week I talked a little bit about wanting to come through here with and clean it out a little bit more, or trying to move more branches from that one spot because it bothers me that there's just a pile of sticks. But I should focus on things that are actively making it harder to get out. So all of the different stuff that I'm running into is a deterrent, because then I have to suit up more to get out. So you'll see, we'll get there. It's unfortunate that a lot of our corporate overlords have tricked us into inactivity. And that's kind of where I was going with that thought before I just straight up stopped myself. It's very easy to get lost in sports or TV or even streaming services. It's especially streaming services, but even before then it would have been books or radio that you had to actively listen to. Like, I remember the TV and like the depiction of people listening to the radio as entertainment, as opposed to continuing to do things because you don't have to watch it. They're explaining it. They're doing the thing. And that's why I love podcasts. I love certain streamers who are very good at talking through their decisions, and the game is kind of secondary. I mean, it's what I strive for, personally. So yesterday really sucked. And I felt bad. But my throat was so wrecked I couldn't talk well or often. So it was weird. I could never be a no mic streamer. Like, I have to chat a little bit about what I'm thinking, what I'm going through, why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Because otherwise, there's just... what's the point? I don't know. It feels like that's what you come here for. That's what you're looking to get out of this. It's so abstract. But sometimes you just want to, like, kind of, like, absently watch something. And it's, like, a game you're familiar with, and you can watch their foibles or whatever. Because, you know, most people don't play games that they're really good at. With a few exceptions. It seems like some people have made their whole career on one game, and it's fantastic for them. And I'm so impressed that they don't get bored. Like, I could never stream one game forever. Like, it's all they've streamed for years. And it's just mind-boggling. I would get so bored. I hardly play through games 2 or 3 times. Like, if I played through a game 3 times, I really enjoy it. But I don't know. I'm not a completionist. I'm not really that way with a lot of these things. So I took a very aerial perspective in this walk, which is kind of interesting. I think the tree branches hitting my camera definitely changed the angle, because I try to have it more like straight on so you can see. But because these escapes are really cool to me. I feel like I'm walking with a limp here or something. I don't know. It just feels a little bit more jittery than usual. Also, that's another thing that's so cool about something like this is getting a third, or I guess it's first person perspective from, but not being in the person. Weird, but it gives you some new perspective. Even though this was my perspective at some point, it's easier when you're not involved. Like, it's why I really enjoy the concept of a mediator. A mediator is really good at being a impartial third party. And their whole thing is that they're supposed to just kind of, like, engage with the situation and see what makes sense. Because a lot of the things we do, we get kind of wrapped up in this stuff that doesn't make sense, but we keep doing it. So, because a lot of it is manipulation, but we'll not worry about that. Yeah. So, understanding what's good for us, what we can do to make our own lives a little bit better, is huge. Love it. So good. We are getting closer and closer to a world where we don't have to have famine, but we do. We don't have to... Oh yeah, I was gonna deal with this. I don't know what happened to that. I just kind of forgot. Not a big deal. I'm sure it'll be there next week. Or this week, I should say. But... So, that is the problem with dead branches. They hang on, and eventually they'll fall. But not always. So, I'm just cleaning up this little area. And then we're gonna go into the next video, because there's just so much to pick up. It's one of the more annoying jobs in doing this kind of work. But all the same, we did what we could for the trail, and now we get into this week. This week, it's rainy, so sorry about any water droplets that may or may not end up on the camera. I can't know. So I brought my loppers along. Loppers are some of the most effective tools for being out in the bush. It's amazing how much you just need little frickin' sticks cut up. Things that are just like, you know, anywhere from a pencil to a sausage in thickness. It can take care of them. And too often you're not looking to cut down a tree that's the size of your torso. You're just looking for little stuff here and there. So I made it part of what I was doing today. Aside from the walk, I take some time to cut stuff on my path that had been hitting me or in the way. So I have to remind myself sometimes because I do end up forgetting a little bit because it's very easy to be complacent. It's often referred to as the devil you know. Interestingly enough, it doesn't appear like the loppers show up in the viewfinder here. So you get like a little bit, but it doesn't really kind of show off what I'm doing, which is unfortunate. So I was kind of hoping for a better visual effect. There. So clear the way. You know, make your life easier. You're the one who has to live it. And if you don't have the tools to do that, consider getting the tools to do that. It seems like it's so simple of an answer. And in some ways, it is. There's things in my path that I want to get rid of. These are elderberries. They're finally ripe. Their season is very short, so I want to be taking advantage of them. So we are going to try to trim everything that isn't the elderberry away, because we don't care about that. And they're in a little grove with these other plants that are kind of annoying. So we'll think about them, or how to deal with that. We're just going to get rid of that whole plant. And we're leaving that because it's an elderberry. But we are taking care of some things like that. And sometimes it's just situational. Like, I don't want to cut everything, so I'll try to like move things such they're not in the way anymore. Okay. Let's trim a few things, because it's just easier to take the time one time. All it takes is one time to make your life easier for a while. And this isn't always the case with like laundry or dishes, but you just gotta stay on top of some stuff, unfortunately. Because some things only get bigger. Alright, so we're doing our best. We're getting a lot of this stuff cut. And because I was cutting things, I did not end up finishing the walk. I ran out of timer. This is a full 26-minute walk. Also, my blood sugar decided to drop through the floor. I got down to, I think, 62. It's okay. I came back, I had breakfast, I had my coffee. So, Moreover, it's gonna be fine. I am not carrying all these sticks with me for reference. This is why I have little depots of sticks. Because I'll end up working in an area and run into places and situations where I just need to put them down because they're in the way, and I can pick them up at another time. It's not urgent for me, especially not on this walk, to take them deeper into the path, but no one would want to watch me like pacing back and forth. Hopefully this is refreshing new content. So let's deal with some of this. This is weird and rough, and these branches are intertangled. And when branches cross each other, it makes life worse for both trees. Even if it's just the same tree that's branches are crossing into themselves. You want the trees to be able to spread out. If it's crossing over, there needs to be some trimming. Also, the thing I cut down is very large. You can see it's quite large. But that's why I love these. Got them on Amazon. They're very good. I actually lost a pair and bought a second, even though these have a lifetime warranty. But I imagine losing them is not grounds for the warranty. Because that would be very... it'd be dumb. Anyway. So, on this walk, I realized there were a lot of branches that I was kind of like just ducking and dipping around. It's amazing how when you start to unravel things, you realize just how much is bothering you. It's much like therapy. Getting to the root of the problem actually does create meaningful change. And sometimes you find out something's broken in the process, like over here. I'm not sure if it shows properly, but when I come around to one of these, I can see that it's actually broken off. Yeah, here. That part broke off. So that was going to be dead eventually anyway. So trimming that, getting it out of the way, great for everything involved. And some of this, you know, is justification. Sometimes we need to justify our actions. I don't know. Like I had said, I hadn't done a lot of this work because of the wildfires. But part of not doing this work is the reason wildfires happen. You end up with a lot of dead stuff that makes it super easy to get a hot fire going, such that it can just progress. So all of that was dead. Having dead leaves on the branches, big sign, pretty easy. But it's not always that way. Sometimes they're just completely barren of branches. Also, this fake-ass rosebush is still very thorny. In order to completely get rid of something, it takes like 3 years to get rid of a berry or rosebush. Just continual trimming down to nothing. Hope for the best. Just gotta stay after some of these things. And it's easy to forget once you've done it, because it'll be like growing back slowly. You have to just get after it. Just making my life easier. I did see a large branch that is just covered in poison ivy. Like, I don't think so. Never mind. Not picking that up. Okay. So, sure, this pretty much doubled the length of my walk. It's unfortunate, but I wouldn't have used that 15 minutes, honestly. Like, I've done videos where I like work in a section for a while, and that is less rewarding than something like this where it's just on the way, not spending more than a minute in an area. It's nice to continue. Sometimes we do have places to be and we need to just do a little bit. And the thing people don't always recognize is even if I only cut one branch or picked, brought one branch back, that's still progress. It's however incremental. Folding one shirt, doing one dish is still incremental progress that needs to happen. It's one of those things, like, if you wanted to get good at push-ups, there was a point where I needed to do 100 push-ups for something. And I'm not very good at, like, the standard exercises, because I don't value them at all. But it was for a thing for my unit, so I was just like, okay, we can do this. So, I think I started with, like, 5. Just, like, did 5 push-ups, did some other stuff, did some stretching, kind of, like, working on the muscle groups and everything. And then, eventually built up to, I think, like, 50. And I don't think I could do 101 set. I think I could do 2. I think it took me doing 2 sets of 50 to get what I needed done. But that's enough. I did 100 push-ups. It wasn't in a row, but who cares? Like, that's not actually the point. It's if you're going to be competitive about exercising, it's important to look at things like that. Like, sure, I didn't lift 1,000 pounds, but I lifted 100 pounds 10 times. It's incremental. And doing that build up, just doing something, your body will adjust and adapt and you'll get better at it. That's just how our bodies work. So, honestly, if there's something you want to get good at, do the thing. Do the thing you want to get good at, and you'll get better. That's just how allocation of time and effort works. Sometimes there are limits. We do have bodies that have physical limits, and sometimes it sucks to be aware of those limits. But you can still do your best. If you're doing it for fun, it's important to just have fun. I guess that's why I never really got into RTS games. Because I really enjoyed the base building aspect of them. But finding the right time to go out and attack your opponent never felt good. I don't know. I never felt like that was the aspect that I wanted to deal with. I wanted to just build up my nice little civilization and, like, go through the process. Maybe build a wonder. I don't know. it's... It's divorcing yourself from the competitive aspect of things and being more involved in aspects that bring each other closer, that inspire camaraderie. It's so funny. LARP is the best example I have of this, because it is a sport. At times, the actual fighting is much like a sport. But the stakes are very low. No one after the fact is like, ha ha, we won, we're the best, we beat you guys. Or if they exist, they're, they don't stick around to do that. um, the social aspect is everyone's like, hey, good fighting out there. Yeah, you did some really cool shit. I liked when you, like, killed me like this, or, like, remember when I got you like that kind of thing. And it's just like having a beer with your enemy at that point after the fact can be really nice, and it's interesting how that plays out. It's nice. There's very low stakes. No one gives a shit after the fact. Like, you were blue team? Fuck you. Like, no. Who cares? It sucks. I have been sidelined from a lot of LARP, and I miss it because the community is so good. And I hadn't even, like, did all that much fighting because of my diabetes since I figured out how that worked. And it's real unfortunate because I'm pretty good, hey. And, like, there is this whole culture of fighting that further engages people. If you didn't go out and fight, they might not have a whole lot to talk to about. Especially if, like, that's where they're at. Like, oh man, this scenario, what'd you think about this? Is that, it's, it can be really rough to find common ground with people. It's troublesome when it happens that way. Like, if you don't think you have anything in common with the person, like, I feel I have nothing in common with millionaires or billionaires. Like, not a single thing. We're just completely different mindsets, completely different views, hustle. Like, I do not care about exploiting people. It is not something I want to do. It's... So, in return, I doubt the billionaire feels like they have very much in common with the poor. So, that's why things are the way they are right now. So, it's often why in times, if you're in a life or death situation, it does help to remind people of your humanity. Like, being kidnapped, a lot of people fall in love with their captors and vice versa. Because they're just people too, doing their own thing. Everyone's got, their own reasons and issues for doing the things they do. So, it's truly hard to... I saw this branch and it was just completely dead and just hanging on this little tree, causing it to be in the way. So sometimes you do get some other factors that are limiting you. Like a dryer that's too full of lint. so it's not actually drying well anymore, so you end up having to do more work with it or run a second load. So be aware of those things in your life where you find yourself where the issue is not always you're not doing the work. Sometimes the work is going poorer than expected because of other circumstances. A good dishes one is not immediately rinsing off your dish or having it soak. If you set up a basin and have like your appropriate cleaning products for how you want to clean your dishes, but after you eat, clearing off your dish, rinsing it out, and then putting it into the basin, dishes become a lot easier. You end up just lightly working them through, rinsing them off, and then letting them dry. It's wonderful. Highly recommend. But some people like to deal with a dishwasher or other aspects. They want to be very meticulous. It's anything with a straw, or like, I hate my coffee tumbler thing because it is so complex to get to clean all of the weird parts, and I so often like forget to like put it in a basin. It's tricky, it's problems, it's something I need to figure out, but that's the first step. Figuring out what you need to figure out and creating a plan of attack. So maybe the answer is I find a different tumbler. I'm a sucker for a lid though, so maybe I find one that just has a lid that I can put on that doesn't necessarily have a drink hole. And that's a sacrifice that might be worthwhile. But we all have to make our own, like, sacrifices and decisions on what we want to do, or what's important. Is cleaning the 4 pieces of the mouthpiece important enough or worth the ability to drink from it? I don't think so, for me. But the fact that it's built that way, haha, brand is built, it's easy to go with what the flow is, and the flow is just using what it has. So, different things to think about, coming at stuff from different angles, understanding what your problem is, even, just huge. So, for example, because I'm being very simple with my trimming, this grapevine is not actually going to change. The grapevine specifically is just going to come back and it's going to be worse. But if I were being thorough and if I wanted to actually solve the problem, you'd go to the roots. You'd go follow that all the way back and cut out the issue, the actual roots where all of this is branching from. And they're on the ground. They're not like hidden or anything. They're very easy to find. It's just actually following it back to the root and taking care of it. Which might be a better plan, going after those roots. Taking a walk and actively like hunting down, like, oh, there's grapevine. Let's fix that space, fix that area. Because it really does a number on these trees. Some of these trees can't stand under their own weight, so that's going to be a problem in the winter. So better to take care of it now, honestly. Like, for real, honestly, I'm just saving myself work later by doing this stuff now. And that's part of being particular in some of these cuts. It can be really hard to see these things. It can be really hard to understand where you're failing, why you're like what you're doing wrong, or what even is happening. So, interestingly enough, you can't hear, but my glucometer is beeping at me like, hey, you're dying. You should, stop doing exercise and go in. But I'm just, making my way back, doing the best I can. It's hard being a cyborg or real life Tamagotchi. But I got in, I had my breakfast, it was nice. And I got to treat myself a little bit, and I made sure I had things to do that. So, self-care is sometimes preventative. So, do what you can. Think of those things. Try to be second person in your life and look at what you're doing and where you're having issues. If you just can't with laundry, figure out a better way to make that a thing. I love the laundry basket slash what's it called? A wardrobe kind of situation. That's perfect. Like, you solved your issue. The laundry basket goes in the laundry, or comes back and just goes in a slot. And that's wonderful. Alright, but unfortunately that's where the video ends. We don't get a real end spot, but thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. Be sure to follow me on Twitch if you're watching on YouTube, and follow me on YouTube if you're watching on Twitch. I will drop my exclamation mark YouTube, and there will be notes in the description for how to find my Twitch.